All right. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure this is working. All right. Everyone's death should be a lesson. Awesome. I'm not going to use my little thingy-majig that I used because this works just fine. Oh my God. So, good morning. I'm up hella early. I was thinking, good morning, Odd. I see you. I was thinking this morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, thinking about lessons and lesson. And I think about the proteins that are being taken away when a virus is uploaded because the proteins have to be brought to surface to replicate or to protect. And so no matter what, whenever new information gets uploaded into you, energy is being converted, taken away. Okay. And so that's the same thing with when you go into a crowd of people. Energy is being taken away because you have to produce proteins to deal with the crowd. You have to adapt. And adaptation is energy conversion. And so that, that's something that made sense this morning after all last night. Like last night I had the worst gas. Like I felt so bloated in my belly. It was like, oh my God, it was crazy. And I couldn't even get air to get through. It was just like, okay. So when I was finally relaxing, watching my Netflix stuff, and I would just turn over and this side and turn over this side, finally farting. And I released a little bit of the rest of the farts this morning. And I feel fine. And I'm awake. Like, seriously awake. My dog is running around. I took a sip of my coffee and I started sneezing. Why is that? I activated my immune system to release. Okay? And this is what you have to do to clear the pipes. Is to blow your nose really hard. Okay? Especially in this environment. Because what I was exposed to on Friday for just an hour would probably kill someone who was lesser evolved, who is immunocompromised. You could say even non-VED, because I was in a restaurant full of people. A lot of them were elderly, and I bet you they were VED. I could probably bet you they were VED on some level. So why are you? Because, my system is an open system. Why am I reacting? Because my system is an open system. So I'm not, if I was VED or was taking all my different remedies, then I wouldn't feel anything, but it would accumulate and it would age me, or it would cause obesity or emaciation. Okay? Or you'd see an uptick in diagnosable conditions if I was fighting something, or down the road I would get a diagnosable condition if none of the three were happening. Because again, we have people who are cured, who are not gaining weight or losing weight, and who look relatively the same, but remember that only lasts so long in a highly dynamic environment. So then I was going through my newsfeed this morning, and I was just thinking like, oh God. And I see this thing about Bob Saget, and I'm like, oh, that's right, Bob Saget. What's going on with that? And they're like, oh yeah, they're going to just seal the records forever. They're going to block, they're going to block the records from being, shown to the public. And I mean, I never really fazed me too much. I always knew that HIPAA was something that was not a good thing, because HIPAA, I know it's privacy, but I understand also people have this whole stigma around viruses. And I've already accepted the fact that everyone has all the different viruses, just how they manifest and when, it's just a matter of time. And so I think most of the public really has an issue around viruses and what would have come up on a titer test if they did one, like especially on an autopsy report. I can imagine that autopsy reports have titer tests for probably every single disease in the book. Especially if you're going to pay for an autopsy, you're going to have to see all different causes of death. I mean, that's the thing, is that I would imagine that autopsies would give you everything. Now they're saying, well, autopsies aren't given unless there's like homicide involved. Not necessarily. Sometimes they have to know. Let me tell you, science doesn't leave any stone unturned. Okay? Science is like, okay, we got to know why. And when they know why, and then they're like, oh, wow, this guy had a lot of titers come up for this virus, and this virus. Well, then people are like, oh my God, he had this, he was so, And so then people would start freaking out, as you know, because people are so afraid of viruses. And they're getting different therapeutics against them. And so that's then where all the stigma, and I guess I could see when you have already characterized viruses as a major pejorative, then showing someone's HIPAA report is then like, oh God, you're going to start a stigma or create a situation. But that's the thing. That's what kills people is ignorance. Why people die in our society is because they don't know why people fucking die in our society, because it's being kept hidden from us, hidden behind the stigmas, the Privacy Acts, and the need to know basis. And that's what pissed me off about my parents is they didn't tell me everything I wanted to know. They were like, nope, it's none of your business. It's a need to know basis. It's you look it up in the dictionary, which I understand, look up in the dictionary. But I'll tell you, the things that I probably needed to know, it was none of my business, or it was, need to know basis. And I'm just like, yeah, that's why I want to know everything. That's why I chase after information like I do, because it was so withheld from me when I was asking the questions. And I asked a lot of fucking questions. And I still do to this day. I ask my husband a million questions. That pisses him off sometimes because he's like, what the fuck? I've asked some ex-boyfriends are like, stop peppering me with questions. Well, I want to know. Nobody's fucking telling me. So if you're not going to fucking tell me, that I'm going to go find out, and I'm going to tell you why you do the things you do and why they do the things they do. And now you can go kiss off to those that are keeping information from people. And that's my parents. That's the system. That's all the authority, the people with their licenses and their degrees. Even they don't even fucking know what they should know, but they think they know because they're reading it and regurgitating it in a freaking textbook. Or their bosses told them, here, you should do this, 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 and this. You take this, 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 and this. And it's just following orders. That's what things are nowadays. No one knows why the hell they do shit, especially in the professional field. They just follow orders and follow a very specific order of operations. And they do, process of elimination. You have a list of things that could be either the reason, and if they say yes or no to each one of them, you check mark a fucking box, and that's what intake is in the medical system. So everyone's death should be a freaking lesson. Why people die? Because cause of death, real cause of death is under HIPAA. See, they say, okay, well, the right person died was because they died from a heart attack or a stroke or an aneurysm or lung failure or liver failure. Well, what is the root cause of vital organ failure? Because if it's not a homicide, suicide, infanticide, whatever side, or war or whatever, or an accident, a fatal accident, then what causes natural causes? What causes people to die from natural causes? Well, that's the vast amount of T cells and B cells in the mucus, because that's how T cells and B cells are carried through, is the mucus in the blood that block the vital organs or cause such an accelerated response, a delayed response, that it could cause someone to faint. My husband, when back in 2020, 9/11/2020, he basically almost fainted when that was the brink of the new virus. I think he did faint, and he thought he had a heart attack, so he went to the hospital. That's probably what happened to Bob Saget. He was exposed to a very aggressive virus, V'd or not, doesn't even matter. He was able to handle the crowd when he was in the crowd. It was later on that his body reconciled with his exposure and the vast amount of protein that had to go and protect him from the virus, because he may have had either his immune system working strong or he had a hyperactivity because of a therapeutic. You won't know. Okay, and then it caused him to probably faint or whatever they said. He hit his head somewhere and knocked himself out. Okay, so when I'm going into a restaurant for an hour, and I'm in there for an hour, and then I come home and I start hacking up a lung, hacking up this, hacking up that, that's a delayed response from my exposures. My body's like in shock about being in a new environment, so it doesn't do anything at the moment. It's when later on the body wakes up and it's like, oh God, like being knocked out, and then waking up, coming to, and then like, okay, what's going on? Let's go and protect ourselves. That's what happens when the body finally reconciles with a very aggressive environment. And so when Bob Saget was out there in the public doing his shows, can you imagine how many people are throwing their virus mucus placoids at him microscopically? And then when he goes into his hotel room, he has to reconcile with that and his body couldn't handle it? Okay? And so that's the dark side of hypertherapy. That's what I call all the therapeutics is hypertherapy. Hyperimmune system. You are hyping your immune system to be so active. Some people can go into a crowd of people and not die from it, but they will have a progressive aging process, which they're fine with, okay? But you never know if that one virus will rule them all and cause such an acceleration that maybe you get out of remission in cancer, disease, and chronic illness. So why people die is vital organ failure. Why do people die from vital organ failure is the vast amount of B cells and T cells that will either overwhelm a person where they can't release more than they are retaining and producing, or all those B cells and T cells are working against the vital organs, then causing cancer. But are you going to see that anywhere on someone's death certificate? No, they'll just say, heart attack, stroke, aneurysm, COVID. And you see people's death certificates that say COVID. Well, what does that mean? Died of COVID. Oh, they were testing positive for COVID, and that was the titer test that was taken at the time. And this is but do they say died of COVID that triggered a heart attack or a stroke or an aneurysm? No, it's either you die from a heart attack or a stroke or you die from COVID. But do you see those two together? No, because people make the connection. Oh shit, the virus, heart attack, stroke, cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, and then Pandora's box would actually be opened up. People would freak the hell out. They wouldn't want to hang out with each other if they really knew what these viruses can do. They can be the angel, they could be the savior, they could be the Jesus, and these viruses can be the demon. And right now, in a world that's a fallen world, these viruses are like the demon. Okay? So cause of death should not... Okay, so this is why people die in our society. Ignorance of why. Why people die should not be private. The world needs to learn what to do and what not to do. Keeping people's death under HIPAA or justifying privacy keeps everyone in the dark, so only the medical system know why people die. That's why people die, because we were never told the details why. Viruses on a body at a deficit are killers, vaxxed or not. And so you could be dead like right away from your exposure because your body's already at a major deficit with predispositions and you couldn't handle the onslaught, or you would have cancer, disease, and chronic illness. And that is your third line of defense is cancer, disease, and chronic illness. But people do is they actually react to it with more antibiotics, causing then more aggressive T cells and B cells to happen and make the cancer stronger at some point. And it will real ugly head and people get out of remission. That's why people get weird, test results after they've been around a bunch of people between each therapy. Okay? So, triggering immune system in a large crowd still produces proteins extremely fast. That's the thing, is that when you go out into a large crowd, like at anything, you are getting so much hit at you all at one time that, your body is stunned. So you'll live on adrenaline. That's the thing, is when you're in a crowd, you're not going to just some people do actually pass away because it's just too much for them. But some people have enough hormones, like adrenaline, to carry them through. That's why you see probably all the different anxiety and the heightened sense of triggers and all that stuff when people are out there in large crowds or they're doing stupid shit, is that they're actually working off of adrenaline. But when they come home, you never know what they have to deal with. And people are not going to tell what they're dealing with because it's all privacy, right? It's none of your business. Yeah, right. You're human. We're all the same. So triggered immune system in a large crowd still produces proteins extremely fast. Bob Saget should have really stayed home or not get a V. But even then, if he didn't get a V and he go into a large crowd, would he survive it? There's no freaking way of saying. So really, when it comes down to it, he really should have just stayed his ass home. But no, they're saying, oh yeah, go get a V and go hang out with no mask. That's what's crazy, is that's what they're telling people, is go ahead, get a V, and then go hang out with people without wearing a mask. Some people will survive, some people don't. And what do you do when it really, it doesn't matter? Are you going to have what it takes? But not everybody knows this. This is the thing. I get that eventually we're all going to have to assimilate. I get that eventually I'm going to have to go out there every so often, not all the time because I know exactly how this environment is, but I'm going to have to go out there every so often to be part of life, so to speak. But many people don't know this. They go out there thinking that life is the same, it's regular. It's not. It is so aggressive, but if you can't feel it, you're not going to know until it's too late. That's what the issue is. So I want to let you guys know before it's too late that you really need to be conservative in your movements out there, because if you don't feel it, it's going to work against you later on, and then you will feel it, and it will be too late. It really will be too late. So the crowds triggered his therapies to work very fast and extremely well. His immune system blocked the virus, the intention, and the outcome was the side effect. Now that is one way to say where there is some responsibility. Because if you're getting a therapeutic to block something, because that's the intention of therapeutics, right, is to block proteins. That's what the plug and play is to block proteins. Well, if your proteins are that much infiltrated by a virus from an extreme exposure, the immune system will do its job and it will eradicate the virus. And if you are 99.99% virus and your immune system eradicated it, the therapy did what it was supposed to do. It did what it was intended. It protected the people from the virus. Which people? Anyone that would have come in contact with Bob Saget, like literally. And so you have to see how to pose this. You can't say just this times this equals this, or this. But you have to say things in such a way where people get it, where it doesn't say something, but it says something. Okay? Because that is the intention of any therapy. I don't care what it is. The intention of the therapy is to open up valves or close valves, to open up channels and close channels, to block a protein or to allow a protein to proliferate. I mean, it's the positive and negative. 0 for on or off and 1 for on. And that's the binary code in computer programming, that's how they do the computer models when they're docking proteins in biotech to test it out through the algorithms, putting in different codes that are representing different proteins to see what the computer would spit out, and then try it on an actual person or a mouse or a rat. And that's how science works with the computer industry. That's why biotech is in Silicon Valley for the most part and on the East Coast. And that's where Google and Facebook and all the different software and hardware companies are based out of, is Silicon Valley. They all work together. You are a hardware and software. So this is why I can go out and not feel anything until I come home, and then the mucus develops and I'm releasing. But Bob was not releasing. So what probably happened to Bob was he activated his immune system with the hypertherapeutics blocking COVID-19. He went into a large crowd with COVID-19 and his protection worked for other people and him. The virus was eradicated. Rest in peace, Bob. And that is exactly what is going on, because you cannot stop a virus that is in your community. Everybody has the virus in some form. Just because you don't feel anything, just because they don't look sick, doesn't mean they don't have it. You take away the people, you take away the viruses. Then you have just biodiversity in animals, which have their own viruses. And plants have their own viruses and algorithms. But people hold all the viruses. And just because you block a protein from you doesn't mean you're not sharing your defense system with other people, and then it mutates the virus. And so then you really have to understand that your body has to release. But when you have so many viruses that are so energetic and full of algorithms in a closed system, imagine what people are holding on inside of them. Imagine the chaos within their gut. Imagine what the body has to do to keep certain things at bay, to keep the vital organs going. But even then, some have a hard time because of predispositions and lack of knowledge around nutrition and body parts and all that. And so then you're watching then the slow decline and even the accelerated decline of people, places, and things. Well, mostly people, because my dog is going to survive this. I've watched my dog go through so many layers of healing that it was pretty scary a few times. Even my husband watched it where she had a major seizure and she pooped at the same time. He was here. He was like, well, she's not going to last very long. Just, it'll get closer and closer. You'll see, Jillian, she's going to pass away. I'm like, no, this is what she has to deal with because she has predispositions. She's been bred so much because pit bulls have been bred so much, especially where I live. People are breeding their pit bulls and selling them. And so these pit bulls are going through a lifespan. They die in like about 15 years, or they die, or they're not behaving correctly or whatever. And so the ASPCA goes and gathers them off the street and then goes and rehomes them. Well, Sugar was a rehomed dog. I got a lot, I don't know what she went through, but I could tell sort of because she's afraid of water. She's always cringing whenever someone like tries to pet her. She cringes. So I'm sure her last owners hurt her in some way. And so she had to go through so many predispositions, but now she's actually doing very well. Her and I both have come out of that kind of crazy fog that we were in from Friday. All right. So it's, yeah. So anyways, y'all have to reconcile with these viruses. You really do. And you have to release, and you have to open your system up, because if you have a closed system now, if you're taking pills, powder supplements, and detoxes, and you're using all the different therapies and all the different over-the-counter prescription drugs when you get a cold, and you're blocking your mucus, drying it up with Mucinex, Theraflu, NyQuil, Dayquil, and all that, and all the pain relievers, and you're also taking either laxatives or Imodium AD or Pepto-Bismol or any of those over-the-counter drugs where it actually atrophies your alimentary canal, then you're going to hold on to those little buggers that you get exposed to through your nose and your respiratory system and through your food. And obviously your nose and all your first lines of defense, which is sneezing, coughing, and mucus. And the second lines is the diarrhea, throwing up, and even skin inflammation. When you disable those lines of defense, then guess what that shit's doing inside of you? It's incubating, multiplying. And it's working against you. Because it ain't working for you because you've already let everything into your body. It's like opening up your door and allowing everyone in your city to come into your house. You don't know what the hell people are going to do when they come into your house. It's like having 100,000 people converge on your property and come into your house. All of a sudden your house is like, they've taken all the copper, they've taken all the everything, and now your house is left to nothing. That's what happens when people allow everything in their community into their body and they close their system up. They atrophy it. They're afraid to poop. They're afraid to blow their nose. They're afraid to do anything. And so they blow up, or they become highly triggered, totally emotional and hormonal, or they get so emaciated that those little buggers are eating them out so much that they don't have time to regenerate and to retain the food and taking on the nutrition, because you can say malabsorption, but malabsorption doesn't even really like explain it. What's malabsorption? You can say leaky gut, but what the hell is that? Forget the malabsorption, forget leaky gut. Let's get down to the root of it. People have used food as medicine, and so then the food is being negated by your own immune system because they think the food is an enemy because it was used in oncology. And then you have so much mucus that it's blocking the nutrition. When you're so full of mucus, it's like birth control. That's what they do for people who want to use birth control, is they create so much mucus in certain areas of the body that it actually creates a dam, it creates a block against the sperm. So when I was peeing out or water falling out, my first time, I was seeing so much mucus come out of my ass. It was crazy. And even times when I get exposed to viruses and I'm pooping out stuff, I see a lot of mucus come out too. Because the body develops it so quickly. So imagine 40-something years of mucus built up in your body, and then it changes your hormones. It turns them on or turns them off. And so then when you were like, I was so skinny before I met my husband because I was so stressed out from the insurance world, from just trying to survive with PMS in California, competing with really just highly intellectual people. And I was a type O. Most people that I was around was type A and B. So they're all like cerebral, and I'm like strong and a salesman. And so then, then it was just my PMS and all that just was working against me. So that's why I came out here. And then when I got comfortable in my marriage, which is good, I feel safe, I feel comfortable, feel taken care of, that's when I started putting on the pounds. And I was putting on the pound after pound after pound, and I was so bloated. When I visited my parents back in 2016, before I developed the Jelly Juice, I was bloated. You could see just how inflamed. My dad even said, "Oh my God, you look a little different." I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, shit." They hadn't seen me in such a long time that when they saw me before, I was really skinny, and then when they see me now, or back in 2016 before the J Juice, I was like blowing up. And there's pictures of me on Facebook somewhere that shows the difference when I was visiting my dad. And so finally, I let all that stuff go because the J Juice helped do that. So anyways, oh my Lord, I'm going off on a tangent. Or maybe not. There's just so much to this. And so anyways, yeah. These viruses will work against a person if they do not open up their system. Okay? You have to open up your system to release those demons. And you'll feel the heat. Like right now, I feel kind of heat. I feel a little bit of heat right now. It's trippy. Okay? I still feel a little bloated in my belly, but that's okay. I can deal with that. I know whenever, it's like giving birth. That's the thing. It's like giving birth. When you are actually dealing with the microbial gestation from your exposure. And so sometimes these therapeutics act like birth control. They go and attack the millions of little eggs that are being fertilized by the millions of little viruses that get into your body. Okay? But, the virus needs a host and you're a host. So what do you think your own immune system is doing? It's attacking you. That's what you got to realize. Okay, and then even if you don't get a V and you get exposed to the people who have been V, then you're taking on their programming. So that's like the herd immunity, right? When you're taking on other people's programming and you're not releasing it. So it doesn't matter if you don't get a V or not, if you're around people who do. So it really is kind of moot when you think about living in a community. So then you have to be an open system to release other people's programming. People could be taking therapies or oncological type of therapies that are using food as medicine or whatever, and you would never know this. And so they're using egg proteins or using soy-based proteins in oncology, and they're spitting out their defense system. And then you're trying to get, you're not doing anything in the JJs, but you're trying to eat soy so you can get your full proteins, and you're taking on someone else's protein that has the soy as an enemy against the body, and then you develop a protein against the soy, so then you're not getting the soy protein nutritive benefit, then the food is not doing shit for you. Imagine on an exponential level how many people are using food as medicine in your community. All the holistic people who are all into the plant-based therapies and the vegans and vegetarians. And they already have food allergies. They already put food allergies out there in the system because they're using the apple cider vinegar, they're using the tea trees, all the different essential oils, plus then the oils that are food-based. Of course, all oils are food-based or plant-based. But against their DNA, and the body is like, holy shit, what are you doing? Building defense against that, and then you're inhaling that. And so, yeah, like the cannabis too. The body builds a defense system against cannabis, and that protein gets put out there in the environment, and now we have plant-based allergies in the hemp area, in the cannabis area. And so then you wonder why people are sensitive to different material and clothing, because that's also being used as medicine, or so much that the body builds a defense system against it. And so that's why you have to be an open system now more than ever. When the system opened up with the internet, with your immune system, with all the viruses that have activated people's immune systems, where now everything is out there, Pandora's box, you can't afford to be closed. If you are closed in an open society, you will take everything in and you won't release, and everybody will cannibalize you. It's like opening up the door to your house and letting everything in. Okay? And then closing the back of the house so they can't get out. But it's like, you can come in, but you can never leave. That's exactly what goes on. We're in a closed society that's opened up, but you still can come in but never leave. And so you have to be able to open up both doors of the house, the front door and the back door. And that's your front door is here and your back door is down there. And so that's fine if you let everybody in your house, but I'm telling you, even when you let the open door, the front door and the back door, and you have no protection, no organization within your house, no security in your house, then no matter what, your community is going to cannibalize your house and everything in it. And so that's why when you have an open system, you got to have your protection, which is your own immune system, which is the substance, from the food supply, and you releasing and understanding that pain is not something to squelch, because when you squelch the pain, you close your system up. When you starve yourself, you are starving yourself of the proper nutrients so you can fight off all the different little invaders that are out there from all the therapeutics. And we're in a world of 7.9 billion people with the medical system lording over the world. And they're developing new and newfangled therapeutics every single day that's going to contribute to this pandemic. The antibiotics is the viruses. Because someone, has a reaction to it and they get stronger, yes, but they're releasing their DNA into the society. And someone has to go and reconcile with that. And so, yes, antibiotics can make a person who's not at a deficit stronger, but antibiotics will make a person who's at a deficit weaker. Look at the aging, look at those with chronic conditions, look at those who are in palliative care or in the hospital. Okay? They, it's working against them. Everything's working against them. And so antibiotics will work against a person at a deficit. And then people around them will cannibalize. That's what I'm saying. Those who are fighting disease, who are really fragile, they shouldn't be around people. But can you tell someone that? No, they need their family and their friends. That's what I'm saying. Family and friends could be the ones that cannibalize you the most. Because when they think they're doing something good by visiting you, if anything, no. Their viruses and all of their energy are going to cannibalize a very fragile, weak person. So, but then the person that's fragile and weak doesn't really want to fight to live, then they're okay with dying around their family and friends. And I get that too, but you have to see both sides. I understand some people are too late in this. They probably watch my videos going like, Jesus, man, I have so much to dig. I have such a deep hole to dig myself out of if I even were to try this. And the pain would be intense. It would be a very long journey. They would have to really have it up here to deal with physiologically. If they don't have it up here, forget it. Even people who are dealt with diagnosable conditions and they're very strong in the body, but they're not strong in the mind. And when you're not strong in the mind, the body won't be strong. The body will only do what's meant to do for a certain amount of time until it can't anymore. And so, yeah, Audrey. And so that I understand that too, but you have to see both sides of this. And even though some people can't do this because of how deep the hole they're in, there are other people that can do this. And that's who I'm talking to, those that have a chance. Those that are strong enough in the body and the mind to deal with adapting, evolving, and changing. And that could mean that, your social associations might have to change, especially if you're at a deficit. Because imagine you at a deficit. When you're at a deficit and you're taking on the world's viruses, you're compounding what you already have. It's going to put you further behind the 8-ball. At some point, you're going to have to allow your body to express and not take on new information until you can bring in the food information, not the viruses that are defense systems, but you take on food information and strengthen your body. So when you go out there again, you can handle the new information and release, and you're eating. See, I could go out on that Friday, but I paid for it for about 3 days. And I'm still kind of paying for it right now. So I still feel bloated. But I'm awake, I'm clear-headed. But I'll tell you, the last couple of days, it was pretty crazy. Saturday, Sunday, and even a little bit yesterday, but I was okay yesterday. But I had the worst gas last night. It was pretty crazy. Okay? But I feel okay this morning. And Audrey said, I didn't mean to send that. Oh, that's fine. It's difficult, but not impossible. But you really, but a person really has to be strong in the brain. Because you have to, if your body isn't super strong, but your brain is strong, which is a good thing, because then you can, if you know that food is going to be your baby, if meat, milk, cheese, eggs, and fruits and vegetables and all that, and the pain, and you have to release and retain and all that, if you know, if you're in your brain, you already know, you've intellectualized what you have to deal with, and you've set yourself up socially, you're not getting peer pressure from your friends and family who want you to be out there all the time, then you can do this. But I'll tell you, those that are not strong in the brain, because they are so tied in with social capital, their associations and everything else, they have large families and they have a husband or wife working against them, they're going to say, you know what, screw it. Because imagine someone my age having a baby, and they have a wife, and they have grandparents, and they have friends, and they have associations, like occupational associations. They're stuck. They couldn't do what I'm doing. They could try. They could definitely try. But I'll tell you, when you already have fought cancer disease and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders, and then you go and do the J juice to bring things up, and now you have to revisit everything you did the chemotherapy for, the radiation for, all this stuff. You think your wife, your baby, your mom, your dad, your in-laws are going to want to see you in bed sweating it all out, not getting up to take care of? No. There is no freaking way that they're going to allow you to be sick and evolve. See, so you have to have a unique situation in your lifestyle to be able to deal with this, especially if you had predispositions in the past. And so I had to fight for my lifestyle. My husband, he was a little bit tripped out about this the last couple of years. He finally is realizing that, okay, this is the direction I'm going. And it's not like, it's going to change. And so he's accepted the fact. And, I do contribute in my ways. I have strength to help him out, to figure out stuff. And he's helped me out. And so it's a quid pro quo. And Audrey goes, I'm fortunate. I have very understanding children, grandchildren, and we have FaceTime. Good, Audrey. But I'll tell you, there are people out there that have painted themselves in a corner because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I know how difficult it is to pull yourself out of the social game. I pulled myself out. I had to, and it was still a fight. Because my husband's super social. I didn't like being out with people all the time. I don't like going out all the time. For me, it was just like, I couldn't see myself going to a bar every Friday night. I couldn't see myself doing that. I mean, it was fine date night with my husband, go to a restaurant, go to a movie. But even then, now, you don't want to go to a movie. You don't want to go to a restaurant, obviously, if you're not cured. If you're cured, yeah, but then your lifespan is going to be cut short. So I had to progressively pull myself out of society. And now finally I have reset everything, reset my life. Literally and figuratively, I've reset everything. And so who's in my life right now was meant to be anyone that comes into my life on some level. Even if it's just a phone, it was meant to be. If people don't, it was never meant to be. And I'm fine with that. I don't need to be in people's physical presence. Okay? I have, FaceTime, Facebook Live, social media. I have my movies. I have books if I want to read them. You know, I can walk outside. I can say hi to my neighbors from, 50 feet away. So, or I go to the store and say hi to the strangers or hi to the checker, chat it up for a second before I move on my way. I don't need to be around someone for like 4 or 5 or 6 hours. But then I don't have the hobbies like people do, their social hobbies, like the boating and the skiing and the playing of the sports. I did all that in my youth. Now my hobby is to exercise my brain, is to now conquer my intellectual side, because I've done the sports, the traveling, and all that. And those that are younger are going to have to go through that, and I hope they survive it. In this environment, I hope they do. But I got lucky that I've had a huge life, a very diverse life, because I made it that way. When I was a nanny, I told my boss, I'm going to make something of myself. If I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like, I wasn't going to be a nanny forever. So I told her, I'm not going to be a nanny forever, but I'm going to do something. I'm going to go make shit happen. Because what else? Wait for stuff to come to me? Nothing was coming to me. I came from a bootstrap mentality. My family was not going to give me a career. They were not going to give me a car. They weren't going to give me any type of anything. That's why I was a nanny, living in another person's house, taking care of their children, because I was trying to make it, taking care of other people's kids. And then I realized that's not, that will only work for so long, because taking care of other people's kids is just, no, there's no freaking way. No. But it was a good experience. And both the families that I worked for, their kids are doing very well. Yeah, they're trust fund kids. Of course they are. Millionaires. But hey, that's great. Good for them. They got the lucky silver spoon, but again, they're probably not going to do my protocol, so who knows how long stuff will last for people. So anyways, you guys can develop and create your own path, but you have to biochemically reset your body. You really do. If you want to get more creativity, you want to be more intellectual, you want to make the connections, you really have to align your alimentary canal. You have to clear the pipes. You have to really figure out that everything starts at the biochemical level, at the alimentary level. Your first brain is your gut, and that is your intestines, your colon, everything attached, your lymphatic system, your digestive system, all of that. That is your first brain. Your second brain is up here. But your central processing unit is down here. And then the projected image, what you are writing, speaking, seeing, everything happens up here. But this up here is run by your gut. This ain't your first brain. Your first brain is your gut. That's why the medical system has commandeered the lymphatic system. That's why they do immunotherapies. That's the bioengineering. That's the genetic engineering, is through the immunotherapies. So, yeah, this will be interesting to see. I wanted to make sure you guys understood why Bob Saget's situation was very significant. And why you need to learn from everyone who has died around you why they died. And if you don't want to know why they died and you want to be ignorant to it, then that's just passing on ignorance to people in your family and in your community. Ignorance is not necessarily a blessing. It's blissful, yes, but not really. People suffer from ignorance. All right, bye.